Actually a big fan of Japanese animation, or anime, and I happen to do a lot of collecting on publications, videos, anything I can get my hands on, even the knowledge of how it affects American culture as well as it does in Japan. Anime is described as a difference in the style of animation in Japan compared to the rest of the world. Basically, when people look at that compared to American animation, there's very distinct differences in its art styles that people can tell instantly. And people can look at Japanese animation and say it's those cartoons from Japan, or those Japtoons or something like that. But it's basically the people who work on the style of Japanese animation happen to put a lot more effort into really creating some really bizarre and whacked out action scenes in terms of animation. And usually if you happen to see something really spectacular, it's something that you're never going to forget. I really started getting into it in high school. I remember when I was watching Dragon Ball Z on Toonami back in 1999, and because there was kids at middle school who were like, "Oh, have you seen this show? You got to check it out." And I didn't have it or I didn't watch it at the time. Instead, I started checking it out because I think I was watching Pokemon like Saturday mornings before school, and so I started watching that. And so like Dragon Ball Z was everyone's, if you ask any anime fan in America, that's their gateway show to get into anime. And that later led on to me getting more and more into it with like Gundam Wing and a whole lot more other shows. I became more of a Gundam fan and involved in the Gundam universe thanks to Gundam Wing. But it wasn't until high school where I started getting tapes from friends and videos from friends that they had their own collection, so they let me borrow them, and I got to expand further on that. And it just kind of grew there and there, and I had my own little collection. And then it wasn't until after high school that I really started divulging more into it when I looked into the staffers and people who worked on these shows, like character designers and directors and things like that. And so that's only broadened my horizons even further to what I know. So I listen to podcasts about people who talk about anime and the directors behind it, and which has even started my own as well. A friend of mine and we usually will watch a show and basically talk about it or review it. And we have people that do listen to it, and they'll give their comments and commentary and either agree or disagree with our opinions. And that's perfectly fine too, because the thing with podcasting is that everyone has a verbal opinion, and if you get mad and you don't agree, you can just start your own and state your own opinion. And I've been doing this certain one for 2 years now with a friend of mine, and it was something he brought up to me like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It was something fun to do, and it was something I wanted to do. So then now that I have this opportunity to stay with it, and that's kind of part of my other hobby, is doing the podcasting part too. It has in a positive way, sometimes in a negative way. That's all an opinion. I would go to some local conventions around here, especially like in South Carolina, like BonsaiCon and AshiCon, and I know that I would go up there and do panels about either to show videos of really whacked out scenes of Japanese animation, or I would talk about, I can do an introduction of Gundam shows in the past, or I can talk about these obscure super robot shows in the 80s and show clip shows of it, and people come in and watch and enjoy whatever they see, and I give commentary. And so in a way, that's me giving just knowledge back to the community of whatever I know, and it just regurgitates onto other people that have the same interests as I do. And as the positive side, I've had people come up to me and say, "Oh, I know you from your podcast. I listened to it and everything." Or others would be like, "I remember you did this panel last year. Do you remember my question?" And I would be like, "Well, no, because that was last year." But it was the fact that I get feedback, and I even ask them, sometimes, "Hey, you're on my panel," because it would say, "Oh, you did a great panel last night." And I said, "Is there anything better I could do?" And they would give me feedback on what to do, how to shorten the scene up. And so it's a positive reaction coming from the community of the same people that have the same interest as me. And so I can always be better at whatever I do, even though it's just for fun. And the negative side would be if I do a review of a convention, there's sometimes some backlash because people would disagree with my comments about how I thought the convention was or was not. So it's all a given, but at least I'm honest about whatever I say on my podcast. I'm not catering to one particular crowd of people to try to butter them up, or to pick a side and play favorites for someone. It's just like I'm being harsh, and I'm giving the true harsh facts on that. So.